And we are.
Hi everybody, welcome to Mrs. Calabash Cooks. Come into my kitchen, I'm Maggie. As you can see from the kitchen, it's the end of a long work day. It's fall, and fall means one thing to me, pickling time. I like to do enough pickles to keep me throughout the year. One of my favourite, I'm English, is pickled onions. And this is my granny's recipe. My father was in his late 80s before he would actually hand the recipe over to me. He was the king of the pickles in our family. And I think it might even have been her mother's recipe. It's an old family recipe. I made the mistake of, when I had a business producing preserves, of actually putting this on the market. People loved it. And have you ever peeled a pile of onions that high from the ground? And I thought, enough, I've had enough. Now, pickling onions any pickling is very easy. There's two ways of doing it. You can have a wet brine or you can have a dry brine. And the idea of the brine is to pull the moisture out of whatever you're pickling. So I've already brined some little onions earlier this afternoon. And they're the little pearl onions, because not everybody likes shallots. You see, they are quite large. I love shallots. And my father would never pickle any other onions, only shallots, because he said they don't go soft in the centre. I don't know. So what I'm going to do, use coarse salt. I'm just going to make a little bed of the salt. Use a kosher salt or a coarse sea salt. A sea salt will alter the taste a little bit because it has iodine in it. And then just, put whatever you're pickling, be it onions or red cabbage, on the top of that. Cover with the salt, like that. Make sure there's plenty of salt on there, because that's going to pull out the moisture. There we are. I'm just going to make sure that the salt is covering. We've got a little salt left there. The board is clean. There we are. And cover it with a clean cloth. Put that in a cool place for 48 hours, no longer than 48 hours. And then we will cover it with pickling vinegar. And that is all there is to doing pickled onions. So I'll see you later when it's ready for pickling. So bye. Hi, welcome back, Mrs. Calabash Cooks. I'm Maggie. Now, I left you yesterday, if you remember, the magic of television, with salt over the pickled onions, before pickling. And you can see now that the brine has worked its magic on the onions. Now, we've got to wash this off. All this salt has to be washed off. So I'm just going to go over to the sink and wash the onions. So come with me over to the sink if you can. Let's just rinse these. There we are. Now we have to dry these. So over the next few weeks, I'll be collecting more onions and pickling them, but these were just a few that I saw in the store. I grabbed them and thought, right, at least we'll have a few pickled onions to be going on with. Now, the vinegar I've already boiled. The recipe will be on mrscalabashcooks.com. I don't buy the commercial boiled vinegar. It has too much salt in it for me. I use a cider vinegar and with my spices. And you just put the spices in. I don't bother putting them in a bag because I like the spices. I put them in, bring the vinegar, leave the lid off, bring the vinegar up to the boil. I boil for 1 or 2 minutes, turn the gas off or the heat off and let it cool. Now, I like spicy pickled onions. These haven't got any sugar in. I'll do 2 recipes for you on mrscalabashcooks.com. One with sugar, one without sugar. And I like to put a few mustard seeds in the bottom of my pot. These have already been sterilised in boiling water. And as I say, this is such a simple process. Now, I like to put a few in, add some vinegar, make sure that they're covered, and then we put a few more in. Poke them down. We want to make sure. I've been a bit generous actually with the size of the pot for the amount of onions that I had. But it will give you the general idea. Just cover the vinegar, the onions over with the vinegar. Now, you don't want the vinegar touching a metal lid. So that's why I like these type of pots for pickled onions. There we are. That is all there is to doing pickled onions. Let those sit for at least a month if you can. Very hard. I put them away in a cupboard where I can't reach, because if I have them in my supply cupboard up there, I go in and I find myself eating 1 or 2 and then I can't stop. So that's all there is to pickled onions. Go on to mrscalabashcooks.com and the recipe will be up there. And I will see you on Friday for the cooking show. Bye.